Nikola Jokic's MVP season has come to a controversial end. In Game 4 versus the Phoenix Suns, the Joker appeared to have swung at the ball, hitting Suns guard Cameron Payne's face in the process. The play was reviewed and Jokic was ejected because of a flagrant 2 foul call, essentially putting the nail in the coffin for the Denver Nuggets season. But was that the right call? And is there any precedent for ejecting the league MVP in such a pivotal moment of the playoffs? Sit back, relax, and take this in. Before we start the video, I think it would be flagrant if you guys don't subscribe to our channel. Hit that subscribe button, we appreciate your support. Now back to the video. In recent history, the NBA has changed its approach completely when it comes to hard fouls and unsportsmanlike conduct during games. In the 70s and 80s, hard fouls and flat-out fighting was a common thing in a basketball game. The most famous of stories happened on December 9th, 1977, in a game between the Houston Rockets and Los Angeles Lakers, where a fight broke out that has come to be known as the Punch. Lakers forward Kermit Washington socked Rudy Tomjanovich, who would go on to become a Hall of Fame coach, in the face, causing him to collapse onto the court unconscious. The end result was a brain concussion, a fractured skull, jaw, and nose, and spinal fluid leaking into Tomjanovich's brain cavity. As a result, the league began to hunker down on its rules against fighting and hard fouls, not only because it was a detriment to its players, but it was becoming incredibly difficult to market the game and sell its TV rights. By the 1990-1991 season, 13 years after the incident, the NBA established its flagrant foul rules in order to deter unnecessary contact. The NBA defines 2 levels of flagrant fouls: flagrant foul penalty 1 and flagrant foul penalty 2. Flagrant 1 is unnecessary contact committed by a player against an opponent, while the more serious flagrant 2 is unnecessary and excessive contact committed by a player against an opponent. Flagrant 2 results in an immediate ejection of the offender, while flagrant 1 does not result in an offender's ejection, unless the same player commits a second flagrant 1 foul in the same game. And above all else, it's mostly under the discretion of the referee to determine this. Obviously, that hasn't created a perfect system to stop fighting and hard fouls altogether. The malice at the Palace in 2004 between the Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, and their fans all started because of a hard foul by Ron Artest on Ben Wallace. The situation at the Palace shook the NBA world and forced the league's hands to lay down the law, increasing fines and suspensions for fights and improving the in-arena fan code of conduct policy. Artest was suspended for 86 games, the most in NBA history to this date, and 5 other players were suspended for a combined total of 53 games. Just 2 years later, a brawl broke out at Madison Square Garden between the Denver Nuggets and New York Knicks, in which the then Nugget Carmelo Anthony punched Knicks forward Marty Collins and knocked him to the ground. The league suspended 7 players for a total of 45 games, including Anthony, who was the league's leading scorer at the time, for 15 games. Over the years, the NBA has tweaked and adapted the flagrant foul rule to become more comprehensive. Any unintentional contact to the head of a player results in an automatic flagrant 1 foul call. And that's where Jokic's ejection on Sunday night comes into play. With the Suns holding a 7-point lead in the third quarter, Jokic swiped at the ball and hit Payne's face in the process. The play was reviewed and it was determined to be a flagrant 2 foul call. The flagrant 2 call was made because there was a wind-up, excessive contact to Payne's head, and a follow-through. And things got intense in Denver, with Suns all-star Devin Booker confronting Jokic about the foul. And the NBA community was split on whether the referees made the right call, and honestly, there's a bunch of ways to look at this. Jokic wasn't intentionally trying to hurt Payne and clearly was making an attempt at the ball. But Jokic himself admitted that he was trying to commit a hard foul to give his Nuggets team some much-needed energy in an elimination game. Committing a hard foul isn't enough to warrant a flagrant 2, just a flagrant 1. It all comes down to the subjective determination of whether or not the act was excessive and intentional. Jokic's foul was intentional, but was it excessive? By comparison, Devin Booker was given a flagrant 2 and ejected for pushing Dennis Schroeder while he was attempting a layup in the first round of the playoffs. However, earlier this season, Warriors' Draymond Green got issued with a flagrant 1 for this hard-hitting and highly dangerous foul on Kawhi Leonard. The referees deciding to hand Jokic a flagrant 2 completely changed the outcome of a very winnable game for the Nuggets, and removed by far their best player and the most valuable player in the league out of the game. Would this be different if Jokic was a smaller player and the height difference between Jokic and Payne, one of the shortest players on the court, was much smaller? Would the referees have made the same call for LeBron James or Kevin Durant? I highly doubt that. After all, Jokic is only the second MVP in NBA history to ever be ejected in the postseason. In my opinion, what I'd like to see is some consistency. Far too often are big men penalized for being bigger. They get hammered and fouled hard in the post, yet we rarely see any flagrant 2 foul calls happen. And despite being the MVP, Jokic didn't get the benefit of the doubt that I'm sure other MVPs would have gotten, while also ending his incredible season on an awful note. So what do you think? Is it the right call, or are we overthinking this? Is the NBA too soft now? Let us know what you think in the comments.